Basically, the four segments are pre-LLM, then application process, during LLM, and post-LLM. So we would be hearing thoughts from all four speakers, their experiences and their decisions, some like myths. We'll be breaking some myths and sharing some reality, some facts from all the speakers as they are based on from different jurisdictions and had their different experiences. So so to begin with and to break the like ice breaking kind of a thing, it would be great if we can listen from each speaker their stories, like what made them pursue LLM from abroad, like what was their decision, why did they make this decision, and everything, like some funny incident or something they would like to share. So starting with Gitanjali ma'am.
Hi, Manya. Thank you so much for that introduction. And hi, everybody. Hope you're all having a nice weekend. About my LLM journey, what I can say is that I actually graduated from ILS, did my bachelor's in about 2018. And I think right from when I was in around my final year of college or so, I always wanted to have this experience of, having a master's from abroad. And specifically, I wanted to experience what the education sector is like abroad because it's so very different from our country. So it was something which was always a dream of mine. I did not know how I would realize it. I think I started working at this firm called Lal Lahiri Salotra in Delhi in 2018, also in the litigation department, and that's when I realized that I cannot. For me, it did not make sense to do an LLM right away because I realized that I do enjoy this work as well, which was something that just came about right towards the end of my college. So I did not want to, let go of one opportunity to run after something else when I was having something which I was indeed enjoying. And so I ended up working there for about 2 years, which is after which I thought, okay, now I want to know more. I want to explore what else is there in the world of IP. And that was about the time when also I will say like towards the end of 2019 when all the recent developments in technology were happening with metaverse and AI and whatnot. And mostly the colleges which were actually having courses on all of these subjects were all abroad. So it even gave me this motivation that okay, now I really do need to do this and I need to go and learn more about this. And that's when I decided I have to. And then COVID hit us, so then I was like, oh, that's nice, not so much. But so I delayed it by a year, and finally by the time I ended up going abroad, because I did not want to have an experience in the middle of COVID, as we all know how that makes it a bit different. And I really thought I wanted to have the proper experience, which I guess after COVID has never really happened as such, but still I tried my best. And so finally I went in 2021, and yeah, I did my master's from Munich. I always knew I wanted to go to Europe because something else which I knew was that I wanted to come back to India. So because I like practicing here, also specifically I'm in litigation, so that's going to court and arguing in court. And to do that abroad, I would have to get a bachelor's degree, I would have to clear the bar, and there are a lot more things which I would have to partake in, especially if I wanted to do it in Europe, such as the biggest barrier being language. So I knew that I wanted to come back, which is why I decided to do a course which was very international and sort of all encompassing. So my college was sort of affiliated with the George Washington University in the US, along with Technical University of Munich. So I was getting the education from, you can say, all different sectors, and exactly kind of something which was built for my specific purpose. So yeah, that's how I landed up there.
Thank you ma'am, thank you for sharing your journey. So passing the dais to Apoorva ma'am.
Hi everyone, hi Manya, and thank you for the introduction. It's very nice to hear good things about your own self from a third person. So, sorry for the coffee. It's 8 a.m. in California, so I'm gonna have my coffee throughout this session. Keep me awake. 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. Okay, here we go. Why I did LLM. My story is a little bit different from Gitanjali in the sense that I did not know initially that this is what I want to do, but yes, I was open to the idea that, yeah, there are some people who go out and who get like a global perspective on the area of law where they want to specialize in. But by the time I graduated from Symbiosis, what that area would be was not clear. So again, like her, it didn't make sense for me to just rush out just after graduating. I needed some time to, really understand what is that area, and also to completely be sure of the fact that, yes, to know more about that area or to excel in one particular area, I need an LLM. I needed clarity on that as well. So I practiced in a law firm in Delhi for close to 3 years, and that's when I got to practice a field more than others, which is arbitration and international commercial arbitration and the commercial disputes. And when I got into it deep, when I got into its litigation, is that when I realized that there is a little bit void, which in knowledge or in my take on it, which can be filled with me going out or me pursuing something of this nature. And so my LLM was approximately after 3 years of graduating law school, and I started talking to a lot of people, that like this session, that why should we do it, how should we do it, how can I get scholarships, and all these topics, of course, we'll cover today. And I consider myself like really fortunate enough to be offered a full merit scholarship at Penn State. And to be very honest, that was one of the biggest motivations for me to come to the US, because unfortunately, like for some people, that becomes like a barrier, that it's very expensive, and you convert everything, and then it's like, and then you talk about ROIs and all. So at least when I was on my flight from Delhi to US, at least I was like, okay, I'm not spending money, so let's see how bad it could be. We'll see later on. If it doesn't work out, I just go back, right? So I came with an open mind, and um, for me, my journey worked out. I cleared the California bar, and I'm now working as an attorney. So all this was there in the back of my mind, but it was not a final plan. It was not like, this is why I'm going there. No, I came here to explore. I came here to know more, and God has been kind. It all worked out for me. So yeah, that's in short my story of why I'm sitting here as a speaker.
Thank you, ma'am, for being candid with us. So passing the flame to Jigyasa, ma'am.
Hi, Manya. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Hello, all the fellow speakers. So my journey to start LLM actually started from 2019. However, I graduated in 2021. Reason being, I came for an Erasmus and exchange program from my university. Me and Manya are from the same university, UPS Dehradun. And I guess Manya did the same program as well. So I came to Coventry University to study business law program for 6 months, and that's when I started liking the country. I was like, oh, good quality of life, and academically also not that bad, like not as pressurizing as we get in India. And I was meeting a few professionals. They said, well, it's a good balance of work life and personal life. So I thought, okay, why not? And then I went back. Obviously, COVID hit. I wasn't very sure as to, because obviously for a year and a half I was with my family, and then when I thought, okay, is it worth it going all the way to UK again? Like, now I'm getting to spend time with my family. I can get a nice job in India as well. Academically I was okay, I was getting good marks and everything, and I was sure that I will end up finding a job in India as well. However, the idea of going back to UK was always there in the back of my mind. But the thing was, I did not really want to go to any other place apart from London, because obviously, when I was in Coventry, it was such a small area. I couldn't explore the country that well. So I thought, if I'm going to UK, one, I'm going to a Russell Group University. So I started working towards my resume quite a lot in the last 2 years of my LLB. And obviously, just built up my CV a little bit, and then I applied for a few universities casually. If I get in, that's fine. If not, then I will get a job in India. So I wanted to go there, but I wasn't sure if I'll get into a Russell Group university or not. But then fortunately, I got offered places in, I guess, 4 Russell Group universities. I had to make a choice at that point of time, like which one now. And then I'm the only child. I don't have a sibling. Then there's always a confusion in your mind. Oh, should I actually go that far? Okay, I have an offer, but I didn't pay to get, like, I didn't pay any application fee out there, so it's not like I've invested. Good that I have an offer. Then I sat for my uni placements as well. Got a job in a law firm in Delhi. And within 5 days, when I got my placement offer, I said, oh, well, I'm going to do my LLM, not joining. So basically, I don't have any experience whatsoever working in an Indian law firm, except for the internships that I did within 5 years of my LLB in India. Then it was just out of nowhere that my mom said, listen, go for it. It's just 1 year, have experience, explore everything. I was sure that I wanted to do commercial and corporate law because that was my specialization back in India as well. And then I thought, yes, corporate and commercial sounds good. Sounds like I'll be earning a lot of money. So why not? Because corporate is like very booming. So money factor was something that was driving me towards it. Didn't end up there though, which is a story for my session. So that's how I started, and I got my place in Queen Mary and just packed my bags and came here. And rest is just the history. Now I'm just stuck here. So that's
Thank
it
you.
about.
Thank you, ma'am. So just passing the virtual dice to Shreya, ma'am. Ma'am, to you.
Hi, Manya. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My story for how I chose to do a master's is I feel it was somewhere already set before I could even choose to do a master's because everybody in my family has probably done some kind of master's. My sister, obviously, having an elder sister, elder sibling, one of the biggest drawbacks is they set the benchmark. So somewhere even I had to do it. But I felt like I still was the misfit in my family, and I just feel that I graduated in 2020, that is peak COVID, literally when COVID hit. So I believe that okay, now I don't have to do a master's, so that is good. But well, I couldn't get away with it, and in while I was in Jindal, I did go for one of the summer exchange programs, and I think there when I went, I still kind of I saw the pros of being in a foreign being abroad and trying
I think,
study here.
ma'am,
Uh,
your internet is acting up.
oh, you seem fine to me.
But is Shreya, ma'am, like not visible for everyone, or is it only me? Yeah, now perfectly.
Yeah, now. Oh, is it better now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sorry for that. But
No.
so in 2020 again, then I started working, and I think somewhere I was quite set, and I had it in my head that okay, maybe there is a possibility to go, and like it was a 60-40% in my head that 60% I'll go and 40% I won't. And then 2020 hit. Obviously, I started with my job remotely, and I worked for 2 years. And then I feel the biggest decision for me was what area of law will I have to choose, and that was definitely IP for me because I was into IP since probably my third year of college. And one of the main reasons I also eventually kind of decided to do my master's is because of how IP is outside, like in the US or in the UK, as compared to how it is in India right now. It's still a very developing stage. So I think I started applying for all my applications. And initially, I was planning to go to the UK, and I was actually set to go to the UK because I got through LSE and King's, and I'd even given my security deposit. And um, I didn't have Berkeley as my top options, honestly. I barely knew about Berkeley. I did like, I literally did a basic Google search, okay, top universities for IP and tech. And that's where I was like, okay, Berkeley is one of the top 10. So I was like, might as well just apply and see where I land up in the US. And probably if I ever have to go to the US, I would know what my benchmark is there. And I was, on the other hand, definitely set to go to the UK because I'd paid all my security deposit, done everything. And I think somewhere I knew that, okay, I probably will not get, because we all, or probably in my entire life, I've always been somewhere, had the benchmark of, I don't know, like compared to people who've gone to the UK, or I have associated more myself towards, or I have been more inclined towards the UK because for some reason, I don't know, because of my family. But I think like then once I I had paid my deposit and everything, eventually I got through Berkeley. So then that became a big discussion, and then I had to shift to Berkeley. And then I was like that, okay, since I have to do IP and tech, that was, one of my biggest factors. So I feel for me, my journey or my motivation was definitely my specialization to come to Berkeley.
Thank you everyone for sharing your journey in like 3-4 minutes, in quite in brief. So pursuing with our first segment, that is like pre-LLM. So that segment would be mainly covered by Miss Vijh, Apoorva ma'am. So ma'am, to pursue with like I would also request other speakers, if they want to take rest and switch off their video while we pursue with the segments, they can. They please be comfortable with that. So Apoorva ma'am, pursuing with our like very first question in this segment is why LLM? What do you think would be the possible reasons one can have to pursue LLM?
Okay. There are multiple reasons, and trust me, some of them are like could be really silly. I've heard people say that one of their reasons, like one of my friends' reason was that, oh, you get to live in the US or in the UK for a year. Okay, so it could be as silly as that, but to each their own. I think a lot of people, my peers and a lot of my seniors, reasons are that, when you start practicing in India, especially, as a litigator, it's as a junior attorney in any firm, I could tell that, you're doing a mix of a lot of stuff. You know, you yourself are the clerk as well, and you're the junior attorney as well. You're learning as well. So I think you become like a jack of all trades. But like when you practice for a year or 2 or 3, personally I feel the need to be a master of one. So it's not something that, I mean, it's good to know a little about a lot of things, but at the end of the day there cannot be so many things which earn you your bread. There are only 1 or 2 or 3 of the things which you really feel after your practice that you're good at, or you like, or you have an inclination towards. So I think my reason, as I mentioned before also, was something like that when I started practicing and when I started working, I realized, and I realized the importance of being good at something. And also that like I got familiarized with arbitration to such a great extent, which I wasn't when I was in my law school, because again, reading about something and practicing about something is completely different. So when you realize that, when you like something, you feel like knowing more about it, and you feel like, um, uh, maybe to get a global perspective to it, to know what's going on in a similar field around the world, in what's going on in the UK or in the US. So uh, so my reason, to cut it short, was that let's channelize our energy into a few fields and get better at it, that rather than being jack of all trades. So these could be like some of the reasons why people pursue LLM. But trust me, the vacation reason is also very, very valid for a lot of people.
I think that reason would be for some privileged students, we can see, like
Yeah,
financial
students.
privilege.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of
Uh,
the.
so
No.
like just quick question, when you were like practicing in India, so like many think that when we start in a like when we start working somewhere, it's very difficult to resume with the studies again. So do you think that it was difficult for you to resume with studies again?
See, there are two approaches to it. One is that, like some of the speakers have done, immediately go for an LLM after your LLB. Just pursue it immediately. That's one reason. That's one way to do it. I think the part which you're trying to mention here, that how will I go back from working to, that part is skipped there, and it's smooth. You were studying, you are studying now. Yes, it's a smoother journey that way. But I feel that, like, to have clarity of what my LLM would be and why do I need it, whether I need it or not, were bigger questions to me. So I was okay with the challenge of exploring that out, working, and then wearing the student shoes again, which definitely is hard, because once you work for 2 years, 3 years, now you're in that zone. So and I was into litigation, so I was always going to the court, and you start making a tiny name for yourself. People know you when you go 100 times to a court, right? So you are in a different zone of your life, that you're building something, you're making a name. And definitely that's true for me, and maybe true for other speakers. For people who are like first generation lawyers, it's a journey to be where you really want to be. So when that was happening, and when I got my admission, so it was of course hard to come to the US, to a new place. And I went to Pennsylvania. It's crazy cold there, so you have to adjust to a new place, new environment, new friends, away from home and all that, and study and do well and be good, and always remember the reason why you came here. So it's I would say it's a difficult balance which you have to create. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are able to do that. They fall either on one side, either they're totally into studies and they forget to enjoy life and why they came here, or there is this other set who are like completely enjoying and forget why they came here, for the at the first place. So that balance took like, a lot of efforts and a lot of toll on people and students. But I think it is it is a little bit hard to study again. But again, when you have practiced on about the things you are now studying and you do have an idea about, it's more fun. I feel personally it's more fun. You like, oh, I've already practiced it, I've already done it. Okay, let's see what the perspective of this same particular thing is in the US or in the UK. So so you have I've like I've been here 3 years now, and constantly, like even while doing LLM or now I'm working as an attorney, constantly I draw comparisons, that it was like this in India, it is like this in India, even in studies, even at work. Oh, this motion we used to draft like this in India, now we're drafting like this. So there is a constant uh, something which is running in behind my head, that I'm really comparing two jurisdictions, and that basically comes out good to me. Like it comes out that, yeah, I know more than what I used to know. So I have a platform. I because I've worked, so I know what things are better and I know what things are not, what systems or processes India should, could, review or evaluate or steal or borrow from jurisdictions who are a little bit more advanced in the legal field. So it's to each its own, but yeah, that was my reason that, I thought that, okay, it's okay to face the challenge again, to be a student again.
So I'm just a follow-up question in this only, like how to decide the jurisdiction? Why not India, only abroad? Or like why did you make the decision? And what do you think, like from your experiences and while talking to other people, can we pursue like LLM in India also or abroad? Why did you make the decision of abroad only?
I'm totally in for the idea of LLM from India. There are many people who are doing that. Monetarily, it's way more easier, and you crack the LLM CLAT exam and you can get through. But I think it depends on the field, Manya. It depends on what you want to do. For me, my specialization and what I wanted to build a career out of was international commercial arbitration. So it made sense more for me to go out of the country to know more about how things are work internationally, because that is my specialization. But suppose someone is more interested in constitution law, right? So I think personally, I think it's it's good enough for him to pursue an LLM within India, because that is what he wants to do for for the next few years or get better at. So I think it could be like a personal preference of where I want to see myself. I want a degree from Ivy League, or I want a degree from US and it should, or UK, or that's one aspect of how you can see it, and the other aspect of what my degree would be in, and what's it what's the use it will bring to me, right, in my work. So I think that could also be one way of but like again, this clarity of knowing that what your specialization should be for LLM doesn't come that easy. Like some people are really lucky enough that they know by the end of LLB that this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. But unfortunately I wasn't that clear. So again, there's and so but once you push that I'm going to go out after 2 years or 3 years, 5 years, there is this family or social angle also which enters into it, that you're at certain age, should you go out or should you just quickly do it from India? And then because once you go out, you have to settle, you have to clear the bar of that jurisdiction, you have to basically start from scratch. So there are so many things which have to be taken in mind, but yeah.
From just the last question of this segment would be like in brief, like quick points, what to expect from LLM.
Personally, um, I would suggest to go without expectations. I think that's the best way. When you expect a lot, those expectations sometimes are not fulfilled to an extent you want it to be, right? And then that leads to disappointment. So, but I'm not saying, like, I am a firm believer of, dream big, have in mind, I want this, and this is my plan, I'm going to do this. Of course, all that is great, and of course everyone should do that, but being realistic about expectations is extremely important. I feel like, as I mentioned before, there are topics, and when you go out, especially out of India, there are topics, right, like how expensive it's going to be, what's going to be the ROI. So when you talk about that, it's not great for LLM, because not everybody passes that uh, difficult journey of getting that done, and then working as a law clerk or a paralegal, something like that, while you prepare for the bar, and then you clear the bar. Not everybody clears the bar, and then you get, so it's a long journey, it's a long process, it's a little bit hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's not the movie that you come and you are in a fancy college and then you are riding around Bentleys and bikes, and it's not like that. This is the real world. You're building yourself again, and you have to be highly motivated every day to do that. So when I came here, as I mentioned before, I did not have a lot of expectations. One reason being because I was on scholarship, so I was like, I have nothing to lose, let's go. I came here, I started liking it, I was good at it, and then I got placed in California from Pennsylvania. So things started working out because I think because of my resilience, that I wanted to go back when I wanted to, not when the situation wanted me to. And when I graduated, it was peak COVID, and there were no jobs, and the situation was bad, and we couldn't go out without masks, and it was crazy. And to find a job was hard. And I'm sure the more discussion would happen on these topics, but I think the simple, real expectations and clarity that why you are pursuing LLM and not why your friend is, or not why your neighbor is. Being clear about what you want out after this 1 year. Is it, and it's okay to go back to India, it's absolutely fine, and it's okay to continue where you're going also, but being clear about um, the next few years of a life would give you a little much more comfort uh, than not being clear. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for this segment. So the key takeaways, we all have to find our own why to pursue the LLM, our own drive to pursue the LLM. The key takeaway from this segment. So, ma'am, we'll see you in some time again. So let's proceed with the next segment, that is the application process segment, which would be led by Shreya Kapoor. Ma'am, are you there?
Hi, Manya. Yeah.
So, ma'am, let's proceed with our next segment. So starting with the very first, like how did you like plan to shortlist the universities, and how did you do it, and how should like one, if you would like to guide somebody, like how that person can do that?
So in this, I think I'll take two sides. One is for the people who already know probably what specialization they want to do, and for the people who probably, somewhere they're still kind of thinking what specialization they would want to do. So let's go with the easy part first. The with the people who want to
That's
do this, who know which specialization they want to do. I feel the best way to get any information is to talk to people around. Um, First thing I would say, please make your LinkedIn account. Please be active on it. Please reach out to people. And that's how you get the best source of information. And that is the best source of information. I feel Google is there. Yes. Even I did like the basic search of what are the top universities, say like in IP and tech. But I think more intense research of how it is at that point, because I feel if you go on say Berkeley's page, or if you go on LSE's page, they will show you all the good things. They will show what it is like, what courses they offer, what all do you have to do for a specialization and everything. But the fact that you really, I mean, with you're going to a different country, you're going to a whole different setting. So I think just for that, you would definitely want to be prepared and see what your pros and cons is. And this is in terms of like, your education, not like everything else. So I would just say that definitely reach out to people and make what I did and what I've always been like, I need a list, or I need like to use all those stationaries and everything. So I always make a list, and that's what I did when I was trying to come around what universities I have to apply. So I did list down my universities. I mean, I came from about 25 to 15 to 10, and then to, because obviously there's a lot of money also that goes in your applications. So then I finally came down to top 10, and then from that I was like that, okay, maybe this one I would apply to and that one I won't. And this is for me because I knew that I have to do IP and tech, or IP mainly and something with IP. So that came as like tech. So that is for the people who know what specialization to do. For the people who don't know who don't know what specialization to do, or they want to figure out there, that is not very tough, but yeah, it sometimes can be tricky because it is more broad, and that you would want to see where you're more inclined to. So in that case, you would focus more on the jurisdictions, and which jurisdictions have a better program in terms of just a general LLM. So for example, if I wanted to do a general LLM, because that somewhere I was thinking, because whenever I spoke to my family, they did somewhere tried to ask me that why don't you do a general LLM, because that would be easier for you to get into any area of law when you are in a different country, try out new things and try out like new areas, and then see after taking few classes and everything. But I feel that does not is always like that. So I would always see which colleges have a good LLM program that they give you all kind of like probably like hello.
And you are not audible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now
am I
better. Yeah.
okay? So yeah, so I mean every college would have like you would want a college that gives you kind of a taste of every course that you probably want to do, or every area that you would want to. And I think uh the people that I've spoken to, they probably always either want to go I mean, and this is just like, this is not exhaustive at all, this is very what I have seen, is either corporate or arbitration. Most of the people who do, like majority of the people, definitely there are exceptions, so majority of the people who are into litigation, they probably want to go back after the LLM, but some are there who really want to stay there and try to establish themselves in, say, the UK jurisdiction or the US jurisdiction. So I would put litigation as my fourth, but my third would be so corporate, arbitration, and definitely yes, IP and tech. So these three areas is something that I've always seen people really trying to go around. And I think there, so that's how probably you would definitely want to see that, okay, what is your preference, like the first one, and then go according to that. And one last thing about this, I would say that you always would have the option of um s- you know going for a specialization or not going for a specialization, in the sense that for me, like when I was at Berkeley, even though I knew I had to do the specialization, they still give you a full year just to see whether eventually, because I think for me, I had to fill in some kind of application and something like that to get my specialization degree. But I think they do give you that option, and they're always a set of requirements that, say, for IP and tech, you have to take these kind of courses, and you have to submit XYZ things. So eventually they will tell you, will have enough time to figure yourself out as to whether you want to eventually take get your degree with a specialization or not. So yeah.
So I'm proceeding to our next question on this segment, that is writing SOP. Like, what is your take while writing SOP? Like, I think that is one of the crucial document for the LLM
Yeah.
application.
Um, so I probably hate writing SOPs because it's just I mean sometimes, and I'm sure there would be people who probably would be able to relate to me, is you can't, so it's, there's so much that you can write about yourself and so much that you can fancily write about yourself. So SP has always been like kind of, I've never been interested in writing one, but eventually I had to, since I was running away from it. But so writing SOP, something that I've realized when I was writing SOPs, and when I sent my SOPs for reviews and everything, is people, or like the people who are reading your application, they are more interested on not what part of your story, that what all you have done to reach at this point that you can get a master's, but they are more interested in, and they're more abstract, and they're more interested in how, why, and why this college. That is one of the main things that you would always have to somewhere kind of mention in your SOP. And I'll tell you how first, second, third part should be. So always remember, and probably always try to jot down how okay, first, why you want to do an LLM, what is your story to get to an LLM, and not that, okay, and story does not include that, okay, I have, say, for example, been in XYZ societies, I have done XYZ things in my in the field, and this is why I want to be. That is all your CV and all your other things. Your SOP is basically your story. And I think at least on the US end, they give you a fair amount of word count, that I think it's some most go around 1500. So that should be enough for you to write, because they don't really want to just get into your lifelong story. They want to know probably the last 2 years or 3 years, or the gist of whatever span till you are coming to the masters. So I would always start by jotting down, maybe, just kind of introspect a bit, which is very important. I mean, yes, it sounds kind of boring or not very appealing, but I would highly suggest to sit down, and you really have to sit down and just introspect, just see what you have done in the past, what all, and how everything is linked. And then maybe try to jot down everything, why, how, still put in what, but that is like the very minimum part of your SOP. Then I would say that you have to, so one the toughest parts for me was to really sit down and start writing, because I used to write one sentence and I used to erase everything, used to go to two sentences, erase everything, because nothing sounded that, oh, there's always this thing in your head that, okay, whether this line will even qualify me to the next round or something like that, or probably if the application people will actually be like that, okay. So that is obviously the toughest part, and I feel uh, everybody would feel that, that just sitting down and writing. The one thing that I did not do, and I would highly recommend, is just do not think about the fact that, okay, whether this line is enough for me to qualify for an LLM, or enough for me to just qualify for just qualify for my LLM in general. But I would just start writing. You know how you generally write articles, or how you generally just write your thoughts or your stories. Just start writing. The beautification of it or fancifulness of it comes much later. Start writing, write, and don't think about the word counts. Just start writing with, okay, how you really have to, okay, this is an extremely customized thing and extremely personal. So this is something that I will not be able to tell you that, okay, this is what you have to do. But what the max that I can tell you is, you will have to kind of portray everything, or you will have to have your own story. And trust me and kid me not, they really love reading stories. They love reading stories. And because in India, it's like, okay, this is what you've done, this is what you've done, great, great, yes or no. In the US, or probably in the UK as well, because it's kind of like I tweaked around the same story, and I tweaked around my SOPs in the same way. So I sent to both jurisdictions. They would really want to get to know you from those 1500 or whatever the word count is. So you really have to tell them that, okay, how I started my SOP was with a little bit of, where I'm coming from, what my family background is like, and how probably maybe how I try to link it with, say, the Indian history, because I wanted to talk about from generations down in my family, and I obviously can't do that for like 2 paragraphs. So I had to really concise it in like probably 3 to 4 lines. So that is something you would always have to kind of try to do it. But I mean, that was just my story. That's how I started my SOP. You probably will have a different story, and you will probably have like different incidents and instances in your life that you can start with. So that is one. Please don't start directly with, okay, so I have done this and I have done that, and then straight away go. Now that is your first paragraph, or basically topic one, that how to put in your incidents, just to give like an introduction. Your second would now will come what all you've done. And please, caution, big disclaimer, do not copy paste your CV in that. Please do not copy paste your CV in that. I would say that if your words, if your introduction is becoming a little lengthier, let it be, and maybe you can shorten your SOP a little. But what you can do is kind of put an instance and try to associate or link that to one of your, say, if you've done something in IP and link that, or if it's litigation, and people would. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, is it fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So one of the very common examples I would give is probably why would somebody want to do litigation, or if you start your instances with like litigation, I think the basic thing you'll start is, I would always probably think to start this with, that how our litigation system is in India, and probably if there's been an instance that you saw when you were as a child, maybe that's how you would want to link your incident with your litigation internship, probably, or how you got interested in litigation. So that's something you can do. Now, coming back to paragraph 2, which is your experiences, your kind of CV stuff, but I would say include more of all the society work that you've done, all probably even some of the societies that you were in, like in school. So when I was in school, I was the part of Rotary Club and Interact Club, so that really helped me. So I tried to put that in my SOP, so that kind of showed that it's not only that I'm just doing it for the masters, but I've been doing it from much before. So I would say don't put your experiences just as it is. Try to link it, associate it a bit. And for the people who want to do it with a specialization and know that they will be doing a specialization, I would say in that case, definitely mention just one or two sentences of, say, if you've worked before, or if you've interned, say, in patents or trademark, maybe one or two sentences of what you've done, and what your responsibilities was. But don't make it sound extremely robotic. Don't extend or make it very lengthy. Just probably one or two sentences that my responsibilities were blah 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 blah. That's about it. And then you continue with your link. Try continuing just to link everything. Finally, your third paragraph, or probably the towards the end, would be why you want to choose this particular university. And they, even though it's towards the end, they are very much interested because they want to know. And this is where you can probably, I mean, for me, that's how I have a feeling it helped me. But this is where you can take some brownie points, but be very subtle about it. Don't be like, oh, this is such a prestigious university, even though when they know they're not. And oh, I can only come here. They know you are applying elsewhere as well. So sound realistic and very subtle about just praising them. So just try to, and I think towards the end you'll have about 200 to 300. So you'll have to be like very concise about it, which is good because then you don't have to like extremely just beautify and everything. So yeah, towards the end, just mention why you want this particular university. For me, like for Berkeley, it was because it's number one for IP and tech, and that's something that they know as well. And probably that's something that 50 more people would have put it in. But at least the fact that you're acknowledging it and you've done your research makes it enough, makes a lot of difference. Now, so this is your structure, and a couple of points like towards the end that I would want to just mention. One, in the first draft, let your SOP run into like 2 pages. That is okay. Let it go on to till like 2000 or 2500 words, because there anyway will be a lot of cutting and just editing and changing it a bit. Try to keep it a bit simple. Don't, in the name of just making it extremely beautiful, do not complicate it, because then it doesn't sound like it's coming from you. It will sound like maybe you've asked somebody else to write it or something like that. So definitely just try to keep it simple. You don't have to use extra complicated words that you only probably would not have heard about. So it's fine if you don't know a synonym for like a basic word, just use the basic word. It's okay. Third, try to send it to people who either have been in that process, or probably for somebody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that, okay, you have to send it to somebody who did an LLM. Anybody probably in your family or in your friends who've already done a master's in any field, you can probably just send them, because at the end, SOP is kind of the broad perspective is the same. So I would say get a couple of reviews, because that really helps, but do not change your fundamentality of the paper or like of your SOP. Keep that, but just ask them that, okay, if everything is arranged properly.
And we lost you again.
It's fine from my side for some reason.
I'm not audible.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, yes, now.
It's fine from my side for some. Never mind. Anyway,
Yeah.
lastly, I would say that research, whatever university you're doing, research about the professors, about the courses that you might take, and try to probably put one or two in your SOP, because that somewhere might just help. And it kind of shows that you are really interested in this university. So that not only will count for your last paragraph, but in general, and there's some kind of consistency. And yeah, I think this is something that broadly everybody should just keep in mind.
So I'm just like we'll keep next some questions in very brief. So ma'am, like the next aspect is like how when we are building CV, like you mentioned in your story also, you were building CV for 2 years. So how building CV for a job application is different from LLM application?
So building, so first of all, I mean, I'll just keep it like very brief. First of all, whenever you are building your CV, just see which jurisdiction you are in. For me, the US, it was very different. I had to put everything in one page. And for UK, it might be different, and India, it's a little different. It goes a little longer. Um, how it is different from your SOP, and how is it different from your SOP that I've kind of briefly mentioned earlier is SOP, your focus on the SOP is basically what all other incidents and instances you've had in your life that have made you come to this point to even apply for masters. And obviously your CV is all about what all you've done, and that is only concise of, I've done these many internships, I've done these many publications, I have done this job, and like very basic one or two bullet points of what my responsibilities were.
Come again.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
So 1 second. Yeah. So that is something. Yeah. So that is something like you would just want to put one or two of your very basic, or like something. Sorry, not very basic, but some responsibilities that were that you only did, but is not very like everybody did. So for example,
Sorry,
drafting.
ma'am. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Like maybe I was heard wrong. So I was asking the difference between CV building for a job application and for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
LLM application. Not
Yeah.
like with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the main question is like what should be the focus in CV for the LLM application? Like maybe publications or internships. What should be the focus? Like what's the difference between the focus between them?
Yeah. So that the main focus is, obviously you will always have to have like two three versions of your CV, both for your LLM and for your job applications. And for your LLM, obviously you will have to change it according to which university you're applying, and trying or which course you're, if it's specialization or not specialization. And for job application, you will have to tweak it according to, say, for IP, if you want to apply for a trademarks position or a copyright position, so you will have to change it there. And yeah, so like the last thing that I was saying is try to keep like your bullets very brief, but always, I would say, always try to highlight the ones that was more personal to you, that's something you in your position were doing and not like everybody was doing or anybody was doing. So that kind of goes both ways.
So, okay. So the last question is importance of good references. Like, what makes a reference a good reference? So, like, we attach some letter of recommendation. So, how to determine like this letter of recommendation is good? This reference would be good for LLM application.
So the very first thing I would recommend is just don't get a letter of recommendation just for the sake of it, or that you have to do it for your masters, because then it, like, I think for some reason the people who are reviewing your application, they would somewhere sense that, okay, this was just, probably this person did not know the applicant, and the other versus a, a letter of recommendation where they can see that, okay, this person is, it's very customized. Overall thing, that one thing before I talk about this, I would say that your SOP, your letter of recommendation, your application all together, try to be as personalized and as customized as you can, because they get like thousands of applications and they can really differentiate between that. So always make sure of that. Now, coming back to letter of recommendations, which is, I think it's one of the important important documents that you send to the universities. I think for me, I mainly chose my professors who I've worked for like my entire 5 years or 4 years. So I chose one of my professors who, and try, I mean, you can choose one or two professors who've just taught you probably for a semester, or probably for a year, say contracts if it's divided in two, and you think that your professor really knows you. So I would say you can go for that, but somewhere, not that I'm trying to be very biased or anything, I think somewhere having a letter of recommendation from a little higher position always helps. So try for that as well, because for me, I think two or three of them were from like my from professors who were say handling
And we lost
WIPO.
you again.
Manya, hello.
Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
heard something bipolar. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so for my professors, one was, say, he was handling IP Society, one was associated with WIPO or probably the UN in some way or the other. So I used those references, but I also used one reference from my professor who taught me IP. So for people who are going for a specialization, definitely get a reference for your whatever specialization, if it's arbitration or if it's like any whichever area of law you choose. So that is something that you always have to look. And I would say, I mean, I think it's a 50-50 chance that the professor might just ask you to write the letter of recommendation, because that happened with me. So in the first instance, try probably just once or twice, because on the other hand, you do not want to lose that recommendation. So just try to tell them that, or in in a subtle way, that maybe it'll be better that they write it and that you don't have to write it, because then just to have like a fair application. But eventually I have a feeling that you would have to write it. So don't extra compliment yourself. Please do not extra compliment yourself, because the application examiners will definitely catch that, and then obviously all your hard work will probably not pay off. So be a bit subtle, and in case you want any you want any kind of examples of how you should write it, maybe ask your friends around, or probably somebody who's already gone for an LLM, and see how they, what they have written or what their professors probably wrote. So that is one of the main things. Yeah.
So, thank you, ma'am, for sharing your insights in the application process. And the key takeaway we can have from this segment is that we have to create everything should be personalized and customized in the age of AI. Many would like to take some shortcuts and helping like we can take help, but we have to work it on personalize and make it customized, I think. So thank you, ma'am, for this beautiful insight in this application process. So we'll see you in some time in our last segment. So proceeding with our next segment, that is during and post LLM. I would now like to invite Jigyasa ma'am and Gitanjali ma'am for this segment. Jigyasa ma'am and Gitanjali ma'am.
Hi, Manya.
Hi,
Hello,
Manya. Hi, Gitanjali.
Hi, Jigyasa.
I'm Gitanjali ma'am, the voice is echoing from your screen.
Can you hear me now?
No, we can hear you, but like my voice is, I am like listening to my voice again. It's basically echoing.
Oh, okay, 1 second.
Yeah. So meanwhile, like we'll proceed with the segment. No. So yeah. So Jigyasman, like proceeding with this segment, I would, as we mentioned in your bio also, that you were involved some with legal aid cell of your university. So what is your take in like while we are pursuing LLM? So how to manage academics and other activities?
Well, in my opinion, it's a very, very subjective approach, as in everyone has a different journey and everyone has a very specific way of, um, you know, getting onto this journey and seeing how what they want to extract out of their LLM. For me, it was a balance of having one, learning what I came for, second, having a good network of all the people that I meet during my LLM, and third one was I'm not just paying for the academic structure here, or I'm not just paying to QMUL to have that name on my resume. I'm also paying to kind of have a overall development within myself. As in, when Jigyasa gets out of QMUL, she should be a different person and a better person altogether. So for me, that was it was a balance and a blend of everything. The reason being, obviously, as Apoorva also said in her session, that some people forget to make that balance. Some people come and be like, okay, I've got 12 months, I need to study so hard that I'll get outstanding grades and everything, but they don't end up making enough networks, because of which they might not end up getting a good job or just overall development for that matter. The other ones are so busy partying that they forget that they have enrolled for a LLM, or they've enrolled for a master's course, and there's a purpose that they've come to a different country altogether. So for me, from the very beginning, in my head, I had a purpose that, okay, I didn't, because I didn't have any experience in India in the legal sector. I thought that I would rather work here right after my LLM, try, get the taste of it. And then if I like it, well and good. If not, then India is always an option for me, basically. So from my day one, I thought, obviously, all my friends were working in, let's say, part-time jobs and going and, working in McDonald's and stuff, which I absolutely loved. That, okay, that is also another way of networking, because if you're going in working in a hotel, restaurant, or any part-time job for that matter, there also you're meeting 10 different people, getting to know, people from different sectors, and still kind of expanding your network. But for me, there was a difficulty in balancing my part-time job and my academics. So I did not do that quite a lot. I hardly, so we are allowed to work 20 hours per week. I guess I worked 20 hours for 1 year. That's it, because I wasn't able to balance my academics and my part-time for that matter. So for me, I guess what really helped me was, one, getting to know my professors personally, in the sense I would just, after the class, I would just wait for them 10-15 minutes, just discuss with them what I'm doing on the topic, or what is it that I did not quite get in the class, if I didn't get an option to kind of raise that as a query during my lecture. And the other one would be, just because I was fresh out of LLB, I did not have any experience, but my peers, my classmates, my colleagues were very much experienced. So for me, I was not just learning from my professors, I was also learning from my classmates, because they had so much experience, and I was a cocoon, and those people were out there, like 4 years, 5 years of experience. Now, I told you I was in commercial and corporate. I was always interested in commercial and corporate. only because I thought that it's a booming area of law, and also because obviously India is like a rising economy now. So even if I end up going back to India, corporate has a massive it's a pool of opportunity. So obviously I started my corporate commercial law, but at the same time when I was choosing my subjects, because obviously you get like more than 100 subjects to choose from, I chose, like, let's say you can you have to meet a particular level of credit. For example, I guess in my course it was 180 credits in 3 semesters. It was divided into 3 sections. Although my specialization was obviously commercial corporate, I took bits and pieces of everything. I did digital IP, I did international trade, I did arbitration, I did commercial law, because at that point in time as well, I wasn't sure. I thought, okay, for the sake of it, I've taken this specialization, but is it something that I really want to do? Because if I get into commercial and corporate, I won't be able to stand in front of a judge and argue, is what was in my head at that point of time. So no problem. I took every subject from here and there, and at the end of the day, I thought, what have I done? I don't even have like 3 subjects from the same specialization. But I was like, no problem. My friends used to say, you better would have taken general LLM. Why did you take corporate and commercial and then ended up everywhere? Because my subjects were also kind of cluttered, in the sense, some days I'm going to classes like 6 hours a day. Some days I don't have any classes, which is usually the case as well. But for my friends who took specific corporate commercial specialization subjects, for them it was kind of balanced throughout the week. So I guess that was one mistake that I made there, not thinking enough about, okay, what exactly do I want to do. But I guess that helped me into knowing what I really want to do, right? So because I had a taste of almost everything, in my head I wanted to be the jack of all trades, which was not possible. I thought I'm going to do this, that, and whatnot, and then companies are going to run after me like, oh my god, this girl has done so much. I was a fool at that time. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to have a particular specialization in order to approach the companies as well, that this is what I've done, and these are the subjects like I'm a master in, because I've done masters in law in those subjects. So obviously that was a kind of a shaky decision that I made, but it ended up really well, because I thought it to be like, okay, let's just have a taste of everything, academically perform good. At the same time, I knew that Saturday, Sunday, I'm not studying. I wanted to have a balance. Saturday, I'll go out with my friends. Sunday, I'll go out with my friends. Monday to Friday, I have to be focused. If I have to study 5 to 6 hours a day, I will. And no one can stop me, not even my friends, from studying. Because I was fortunate enough to have such a good group as well, who was very kind of focused, and we were kind of pushing each other, which I think people don't usually talk about. It's always important to have that kind of circle also, your friend circle, who kind of pushes you to um, your maximum capabilities, I would say. So I was fortunate in that sense, because all of us were coming from very different areas. Someone was doing AI, someone was doing corporate, someone was doing human rights. So we would just sit together and we would talk about law in general, like how is it booming, how where do we see ourselves in the next few years. So unfortunately all of us have managed to kind of get jobs also in their respective careers. So that in my case was really helpful, having that set of people who drive you, who motivate you to be the better person and to perform in your 1 year of law to the point, as in to your best ability. So that I think really helped me a lot.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. So, ma'am, coming to Gitanjali, ma'am, you like took a break after LLB. So your perspective would be kind of little different, because like Jigyasa ma'am was in study mode and she knows how to make friends and all. Did you face any difficulty like while networking and while like going back to study, preparing the dissertation thesis, then networking again? So I just wanted to understand your story on this, your side.
Sure. So is my voice better now? Is it?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay, great. So yeah, I think no. The short answer, no. I did not face a difficulty or a disconnect. I think I felt, I will say to a certain extent, like you lose the habit of studying that's something that happens because I had worked for close to 4 years when I went for my LLM. So like 3.5 years, I was in a law firm where I mean, when you're working, you're studying, you're researching, everything is very time limited. You do one research for an hour and then you have to go to court. So it's not something like a thesis where I had a year to sit and write one thing. I think for me that was the biggest challenge of probably my entire professional career, that I had to sit on a topic for a year. And especially after having had that experience with the work life in the middle, I think that was a bit difficult. But I think it's like it's like riding a bike. So once you start, it takes like a month or so to get back. Like I think we had our first exam, so like my college was structured in a way that exams used to happen on a rolling basis. So if you had one course, like let's say basic copyright law, and then like the professor would be done, because all the professors were coming from different countries, so they would get done with their course in 2 weeks and then you would have the exam. So I had my first exam, I think within 2 months of starting my LLM, and that was the hardest thing ever, because I was like, how do people study for exams anymore? How does this work, right? It's like I completely forgot that, especially in law school, that you have to sit and read case laws, this that. It was way too much pressure, I think, on the first time. But then you get the hang of it. You, like Jigyasa said, and I agree completely, that you make a good circle of friends, peers, colleagues who kind of really help you with these aspects, like even sharing of notes and making sure that people are having your back, and you have that right group, which is also important, not just for the studying aspect, I think also because we were all in a different country. So when you're away from home, that you need a circle which is sort of at least understands, or if not understands, empathizes on some angle. So you need a good support system. But yeah, I think it was pretty easy for me, because I think I mean, my course was completely international, so every single student in my batch was from a different country. So we didn't even have a German in our batch, and I mean, we studied in Germany. So that was a one-off that happened this year. But like usually there are few Germans, because they try to have a very diverse class, and it's very limited. So I mean, everybody was from far away, so everybody wants to be friends. Everybody tries equally hard. Everybody, and I in fact joined. My course started on October 1st or something like that, and I joined in November because of my visa. Like I had some visa delays, which is like another issue altogether. So I had to join a month later. So I was actually very scared when I went on, thinking that oh man, like people would have made friends and groups, and maybe I won't be able to get in the group. But surprisingly, everybody is very welcoming. So we are always scared about that, but people are welcoming, and I think it's to open ourselves up as well. So yeah, it worked out. I think there are also certain advantages which I thought were very important by having had that experience in even in networking, because I felt that I very easily networked with certain people who would be like, oh, you work in this area, me too. So we would automatically have that connection. And like, okay, so oh, did you work on that case? I've heard of your law firm, and there was this case in India, and we studied it. So did you work on that? And I had that with like a couple of, let's say, like a few professors who were from Indian origin professors. So they would while teaching, they would say something, and you raise your hand and you say, yeah, like, so in this case something like this happened, I was involved. And then they would call you themselves after class. They would be like, okay, so tell me more about it or something. So I think it has its advantages. Definitely I was a bit more closed off than I probably would have been had I gone immediately after my bachelor's. But I think I had more experience. So it's really a balance. And I think the experience for me enabled me to have a very much better experience suited for me, for what I required, at the time. So yeah. Manya, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So I'm just a follow-up question from Gitanjali ma'am. So I'm like Jigyasa mentioned how she did the networking part. So like how did you connect like peers you told like you connected on the common things you discussed, but from like professionals and from other people, how did you do the networking part?
Yeah, so actually, I finished my course in November 2022, and from October 2022 till March of 2023, I was working in Munich with Ericsson. So that is also another story which happened because of networking. So I would actually say that it's actually probably like that was one of my pointers for people during LLM. I think the most important thing, in my opinion, even more than I think studying, is networking with the right people, because you will study because you know it's your money, you know it's like your scholarship on the line, you know there are things on the line, the stakes are high to study. But networking, people don't find the stakes are so high, like, oh, I don't want to talk, I'm busy studying, I'm doing this. But these are the things which actually land you to the places where you get. For me, it was actually because of, I would say that we had a very small class. So yes, it was easier for students to interact with the professor, right? Like a class of 30 people, so within like 34 people, if a professor is there for a week, it's like easy even if two people go talk to him every other day. And a lot of the times the professors, what was one unique thing to my college was also that the professors had like often like because we were in Germany and in Munich specifically, like let's go have beer, you know. So there are beer gardens, and like very often our professors would take us out, and that was actually one of, like, a lot of people miss that because they think that no, we want to go study, but that's actually a great networking opportunity. So anytime there was a plan for drinks, anything non-drink, even if I don't drink beer, by the way, so I don't even drink beer, but I was there. So I just like showed up. You just like make sure that at least once or twice you try to get a seat next to the professor, talk to them. More often than you realize, they are actually as curious about you because you're from a different country. So people do want to know what's up in India. And I mean, as some of you may already know, like Jigyasa would probably agree with me, people have this, mindset of India in their mind abroad. Like they already have a set mind. So they will ask you these really strange questions, like you just have to open up and they will start, and then it kind of becomes a dialogue, easy to flow. Within that, like I would always get like, something related to, oh, so when I worked in Delhi, this happened. And then they would be like, okay, so where did you work? How did you, do this? How did you? And then I would tell them, talk to them about that. And then, of course, at the end of the conversation, I always made sure to, when I wanted to really connect with a professor or a person, I made sure to like sort of keep it a bit open ended, that would you mind if I, I would love to discuss this more. So would you mind if I connected with you on LinkedIn? And I think LinkedIn is, like Shreya and I think Apoorva already mentioned, is probably the most important tool that every student has in hand right now. So I would always say that, can I? Because abroad, like in India, we send requests to everybody, but abroad they don't accept your request unless and until they know you. So this is something that you need to bring up in the conversation. Like, do you mind? Would you mind? And then when you write to them on LinkedIn, I would write like, "Hi, this is Gitanjali from your class, and we discussed this, and I'm just following up and was wondering when you're free, want to have a quick chat," something like that. And that's how I actually got my job at Ericsson, because I was one of the my boss at Ericsson. So basically, the director of IPR policy, she comes to my college every year to take a session, and she comes with the aim of picking up a couple of students. But the main thing for her, and I have had like many conversations with her since then, right? And the main thing for her was that I always looked for people who would, talk to me. Because why would I consider someone who does not talk to me afterwards? So even if someone had like a better CV but did not interact so much, maybe they wouldn't, get the opportunity. But someone who, let's say, has an average CV but does make an impression, does have a better chance. And that's what I always try to go for, that I, try to always make sure that I'm talking to people, keeping my options open, because already, as you know, like I was studying IP and competition law. So I wanted to make sure that I'm not narrowing it down further. So I did try to keep my options open, but I also wanted to be like, a master, like Jigyasa said. So I had my specification very clear in mind. So, I would always, like when I took a seminar on competition and IP interferences, and that was dealing with the topic of standard essential patents, etc. And that is my specialization right now. So, these things are something that for me, I thought it was very important to keep in mind, like, especially when you are looking to a specialization, you should be as focused on getting that done. So, yeah, that's from my end.
Thank you, ma'am. So moving on to the post LLM segment. So starting with Jigyasa, ma'am. So I'm like, how did you manage? Like, what difficulties did you face while securing a job? Like, how how networking played a part in, or like, what did you do exactly? What was your thing, and what would you advise others who would go to UK and US? Because I've heard that securing jobs LLM is quite a task. Like, it's whole another struggle, basically.
For me, I think I was a nightmare for everyone on LinkedIn. I would message on odd hours. I will just let them know that, hello there, I'm available. Please talk to me. I want a job. Everyone, I think, was just fed up. So for me, I did not leave a single website which was offering a law job. Now, as I said, because I've done my course was pretty much specialized. However, even if I did quite a few things within my course as well, I was not very stubborn with respect to how I want to start my career, because I didn't have any experience as a full-time student before that. So for me, I was open to everything. I was open to every area of law, I would say. So I started applying everywhere, be it mental health law, be it corporate law, be it human rights, just everything. Something that's very important is, for example, if someone comes to UK, they tend to focus more on bigger cities, like, oh, I should get a job in London, I should get a job in Manchester, Birmingham, like big cities for that matter. I think that is a driving factor, no doubt about that. But at the same time, the cost of living in those cities is way higher than cost of living in other smaller cities, wherein I believe you would get to understand and experience the culture of that country even more. For example, currently I'm in Chelmsford, which is literally just 20 minutes away from London. I think it's best of both the worlds. I did not confine myself to just staying in London. Um, I, I was just open to going anywhere in UK or Europe for that matter, and started applying in bigger firms. Obviously, because of no prior experience, I used to get, I think, more than 50 to 60 rejection emails every day. I would wake up to, hello, unfortunately, your application has not been accepted. Every day I would wake up to such emails. And it kind of became depressing at one point of time, because September I completed my master's, and in my head I was hoping to have a job right after I complete my master's. I don't know, I was living in a dreamland of my own. I thought September I'm completing my master's, and September only I'm joining another office after taking a week's break. But it doesn't really work like that. There are so many students, because obviously UK provides a post-study work visa. So after your LLM, you can stay in this country for 2 years and, let's say, look for a job or do whatever you want to do. So you're allowed to work 40 hours per week on that visa. My student visa was expiring in January, and I thought, I'm not going to apply for post, because that's an expensive visa. I thought, I'm not going to apply for PSW if I don't even have a job. What's the point of staying in this country? I'll go back to India and get a job. But still, I don't know, for me it was kind of an ego factor against myself, that I wanted to prove myself and my parents as well that if I've come here, I've spent so much money on my course. It's because, considering it's not just the tuition fee that you pay to the academic institution, it's also your living expenditure, which in a country like UK it's a nightmare. So obviously you spend a lot of money, you want to get, as Apoorva said, you think about ROI quite a lot, like, obviously I need to recover that amount ASAP. So September, I started looking for job. For 1 month, day in, day out, I was only applying for jobs. There's an option of easy apply. That was like my favorite pastime. I'm cooking, I'm doing easy apply. I'm walking, I'm doing easy apply. But wherever I'm going, I'm doing easy apply. And like I would take 4 to 5 hours of my time separately to just apply for like jobs which needed attention to detail, as in doing proper applications. And there's an option to apply for training contracts in the UK. But obviously, it's very important to start applying for training contracts way before the training contract actually starts, because currently if you apply, you'll only get a training contract for 2024 or 25, not before that, because they're all packed, they're all just taken by people. So training contract in my head was not really an option for me, because I thought that I'm not going to get in 2022. The next time, the next training contract, if even if I'm lucky, would be in 2023, right? So I started applying for jobs like paralegal, legal assistant, even legal secretary. I just wanted to get into the law career for that matter, and then make my way within. And then I applied to the job I'm currently working in. So basically, remember when I was just texting everyone on LinkedIn, the firm I'm currently working in, I applied in this firm, I think June 2022. So 2 to 3 months before I graduated. And I said, oh, she called me for an interview. Unfortunately, I was in India at that time, and I said I can't come for a personal interview. Can you please schedule a video call interview? She said no, thank you, and she stopped replying to my messages. But in my head, I thought, oh, there's this one person who thought that I'm worthy enough for the job, so I will maybe try again in the same firm, because they've read my CV. Because it's very, very difficult to find a job when you don't have a UK citizenship. They don't really prefer taking people with PSW or student visa, because not all the companies have the sponsorship visa for that matter, except for the bigger companies. And also for bigger companies, it's an investment. It's very expensive for them to sponsor someone from outside the UK. And then I started messaging this company like time and again. Every day one LinkedIn message is going out, one email is going out. They were sick of me. I think they should have blocked me by now. They didn't, fortunately. I used to call their offices every day. Hi, is there a job available? And finally I got an interview. And bear in mind, I did that with almost every firm in Essex, London, even Manchester. I just used to do a simple Google search, jobs in UK, legal jobs in UK, and whatever came my way, I used to just apply 24/7. I was applying. And then fortunately I got an interview, appeared for the interview. And then the worst part about that was I was not getting what I studied for 6 years. That firm was offering me family law job, and I thought, family law, like divorce, children, matrimonial matters, I've never studied it. How am I going to do it? It's just completely out of the blue, and I've never thought that I would do something like that. But I thought, okay, it's better to have something rather than nothing. And I said, no problem, I will join the firm. And I started as a legal assistant there. And it's been 8 to 9 months, 10 months for that matter, since I've been working for this firm. And I can't go back from family law. This is my passion. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, because I never knew that I would love it so much. Imagine 6 years doing commercial corporate, always getting driven by the money factor, and thinking like, oh no, I'm going to be this big city girl sitting in JP Morgan drafting contracts and doing whatnot. And suddenly I'm working at a high street law firm, talking to people about their matrimonial problems, their children problems, because it's such a big thing in countries like UK. It's as big as, I would say, this market is as big as arbitration, commercial corporate, because the rates are higher than our countries, like the divorce rates, the fact that the child custody problems, and for that matter, civil partnership things. And I started liking it because I love talking. I love talking to people. And then they were just coming in. I think I'm very empathetic person as well. So for me, 3-4 months I did it. I tried to, because I was a like melted wax. Just put me into anything, because I don't have a prior experience, right? For me, you mold me into anything and I will become that, because I don't have a set way of working in my head before. So for this firm, I was quite new, and they could mold me into whatever way they wanted me to. And within 3-4 months, even if I started as a legal assistant, they promoted me to being a paralegal. And fortunately, I'm working towards getting a training contract in this firm very soon. But for me, I think it worked out really well, and I can't go back from family law. And I think I love it now, even if I've never, ever read it, ever, never studied it. But I think I'm getting a hold of it. So, conclusion being, never confine yourself to something that you think, oh, I don't think I will fit in this. Try everything out, especially at this age. From in your initial 20s, your late 20s, just try everything out, and then one point of time you will realize this is where you belong. That's what I did, and I think this is where I belong. So that kind of really helped me.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing and being an alumni. It's very great to see that you are, yeah, that you have got your thing and you're happy. More power to you. Proceeding to Gitanjali, ma'am, as you said that you always wanted to come back to India. So, just a question to you, like, how did you find like your LLM was used in India? Like, how was it beneficial here? Maybe it would be with your salary package negotiation, you got an edge. Like, what was your experience after like coming to India after doing your LLM?
Yeah, so I always wanted to work in India, especially actually when I started working in India, I realized that I really like it. I was almost considering not doing an LLM because even I had the same question that how would this help me in coming back to what I'm already doing? Would it be a waste of a year, waste of money? A lot of questions in my mind. So I did defer it for many years, but then I did realize that I want to do certain new topics which came about. And when, like, another thing that happened, like, luckily for Jigyasa, and like, congratulations, Jigyasa, on your amazing job, but like, luckily for her that she got into family law and she loved it. But it does happen for people that, you may get into a specific subject and maybe you realize that, okay, maybe I want to do more. And it's still possible that, like, you like that field but you want to explore more. And sometimes in order to explore more, what you need to do is like gain more knowledge because you have to offer something. So now the question for me, it was always that I got into IP litigation and I was completely into commercial litigation in Delhi itself. I knew I like it, but I wanted to do more. It was not enough for me at that point. I felt that I'm just doing a lot of, just trademark infringement, a lot of copyright infringement. And I was really interested in, for me specifically, patents, which is something that I could not have done because I did not have a science background. So I'm from a commerce background. So I didn't know how to, like, step into patent litigation. And I needed to get something extra in order for people to take me seriously for it. Even though I did, like, I mean, in order to be a patent litigator, you don't need to have a science background. Just for your information, everybody, in order for like patent prosecution, which is filing of patents, then you do need to have preferably a science background because it will help you in understanding a patent. But while doing litigation, it's beneficial, but it's not compulsory because, like, in my team, I will always have a technical person helping me with the matter. So it's not that I'm the only person handling one entire patent suit alone. So yeah, that was one of the reasons that I decided that I needed a knowledge booster and I wanted to learn more. New topics came about. At that point, I was also unsure of, like, whether I want to go into, maybe I had this, phase of, do I want to do entertainment law, media law? This also is like very booming. So I was actually kind of, when I decided to go for my LLM, I was in two minds, but I knew that I want to do something a bit more advanced and not just the, regular, which is going on right now. So I ended up applying to places, but I knew that in order to get this job now, one thing that I was not willing to sacrifice was that I don't want to start from scratch now. So I did not want, after 3.5 years of working, at that time I had already made senior associate at the firm where I was working in India. So I did not want to come and start at a firm as an entertainment lawyer or as a patent litigator with a trainee associate position. For me, it was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take a pay cut. I'm not going to do this. So I knew that, okay, this is LLM is an option, which I always had. Let me try it. Let's see what happens. Worst case is like, I can come back to this firm. and continue here. The people at my workplace liked me. I liked it too. So it wasn't like a bad deal, but it was just about the increasing the, I would say, variety of work that I was involved in. And so yeah, I think it was just curiosity about knowledge, getting into more sectors, and finally about always having this dream of doing an LLM, which all together combined kind of made this decision up for me to go abroad. Coming back to India was always something which I had in my mind, because for me, I think personal reasons as well, that I am very family centric, so I could not imagine. For me, it was a very difficult situation to even be apart for a year. So I think that's like your own, personal opinion for everybody. So that's nothing that I can talk about much. But I knew I wanted to come back. So now the question was, how am I gonna kind of, I don't want to waste money and I don't want to waste my time. So how will I sort of take this LLM and whatever I learned into India. So because I went with this perspective, I think it's very important to know this, because when I went with this perspective, you will see that everything that I did during my LLM and even after my LLM was all very India centric. So my thesis covered India. My work at Ericsson, the only reason I took up Ericsson was because they were offering me a position which was working with the Indian team. So I was like, okay, it's a limited contract, and I was having fun in Germany. It was good money, and it was just an extra 6 months. And I thought, okay, why not? Let's try it. Like, let's try it. Nothing. We're only making money here, and it was IP, so it's great. I was like, great. So yeah, all I did there was also, again, I wrote articles. I was a IP policy researcher for them, and so I wrote primarily research articles, and everybody else in my team wrote research articles which were global or German centric or Europe centric. But my articles were kind of a comparison between European policies in comparison with Indian policies, and we aim to publish them all before business journals in India. So because of that, here again, I did a lot of networking because I connected with people from Ericsson's India office also. Because while I was writing, I always, called them up, and I even have a co-author who is an Indian director at the company. So it kind of was something that, when you have this clarity in mind, you keep your focus towards it. So I never I will say, wavered in my decision that, I will stay here. So everything that I did, I made sure that I was doing with that mindset. Even the courses that I chose during my masters were all things which I knew I will need in India and will benefit me in India, like things like internet law, because internet law right now does not exist in India, right? So studying it abroad, and neither does it abroad. Like there are like a few acts here and there which govern certain aspects of it, but there is no consolidated act. So even when I studied internet law in my course, it was studying different laws of different countries. And then now when I go to India, I can use that because we don't have any specific internet law now. We just have a digital protection bill which has been passed now, like this month. So I can use that in analyzing that okay, yeah, this is taken from here, this is taken, because that's how the legislation works as well. So I made sure that I'm firstly choosing your subjects wisely. That's something that you do with the center of where you want to go. Of course, I will say, like, again, with Jigyasa, I think she was a very, like, we have a very different path because she was very new in like her thing. So she had this thing to take everything, which I really wanted at one point. Like I wanted. It's very hard to control yourself from not taking everything. Like at one point, I really was like, I want to take and I did almost overload my. I feel at one point that I overloaded my course structure so much that I had classes all the time, and my friends were chilling, and I was like, why on earth have I took an extra credit, like an extra 6 credits that required, which was just a mess. So yeah, I mean, now I can say that, like, of course, even I didn't have, like, you have some clarity, but it's only limited, right? Like how much clarity can a like a 20-year-old have, like a 20 something year old have? Like it's not that much. So yeah, I did that. But I did try to focus everything, my internships, my work, my articles, and eventually it all connected me. So when I was almost, I think, done with, I will say, like half of my Ericsson contract, that's when I started reaching out to people in India, and I actually started by making a list. So for me, I think the most important part of the process was to make a list of the places where you want to be, and not just the places, because like for me, if it's, let's say if it's a law firm, there are multiple teams in a law firm, and every team is headed by a different partner, and the way to get here is to know where you want to go. So especially for Indian law firms, like you need to know which partner you want to work under, you need to know what that partner has done, you need to be a bit well versed, because how would you be an asset to their team if you don't know anything about what their team does, right? And especially while joining something like me, which was in standard essential patents and litigation, that too in that field, it's not something which a fresher can easily get, because in our bachelors in India, we do not have like much to study about standard essential patents. Like I didn't have a subject in my bachelor's about standard essential patents. I don't know if either any of you had, but like I definitely didn't. And so I think in order to get there, it's like something that only takes you either experience or you get this extra boost of knowledge. And then when I made my list, I found the people who do, like, since it's such a niche field, there are very, limited places which do it. There are only about, I think, 2 or 3 firms in India which handles this. And this is all in Delhi, because it's kind of like a mingling of IP and competition law. And we have the Competition Commission in Delhi. So this can only happen mostly in Delhi. And so yeah, I applied to those places, and in my application as well, when I applied to those places, I actually didn't apply. I reached out to the partners. So I personalized a message and I reached out to them. I also looked in my network. I asked my friends who are already in the field, since when you have work experience, you start having these friends who know people, and that's a very good sort of network to have. And I sort of asked few people, like, can you connect me to this person? Do you know someone who works in this person's team? I want to talk to this person. And somehow I got connected to the right people. And then I sent, of course, then connection is not enough. You have to talk to them. You have to tell them who you are. Then I wrote to them, and then you have to have patience. Like, it's, I think, very important to have patience, because it takes a while. So like I thought that by the time I would be done with, like, when I started I got Ericsson, I think 6 months before I graduated. So I thought, wow, this is easy. Like, I'm gonna get another job like immediately as soon as I start Ericsson. So as soon as I started Ericsson, I thought, now where's my next job? Because I knew that was a limited contract. So I knew I had to start searching. And now I knew I need to go back, because if I have to go back, you also need to go back fast, right? Because otherwise you'll be completely disconnected. So you can't have such a big disconnect from the thing, because then you might have to just either go back with like 10 years of experience, or you go back as soon as possible, because there's really not much that you can offer with like 3 or 4 years after that, unless there's something special, some specialization that's done. So yeah, I really thought I wanted a job right then. I did not get a job as soon as I did. I got it eventually when I was like in my 5th or 6th month at work, but it took a while. And as the months pass, you start losing like motivation, and you think like, oh my God, have I made the right decision? Should I have come here to get a job there? And does this work? But I think it's really about applying to. For me, like, I think when you have a specialization in mind, you should not do applications everywhere. Like, I think when you have something specific, like, because that is only going to demotivate. Like, you will apply everywhere and 99% of the places will reject you. But what I always said, like, I mean, someone said to me, and I love this line, is that you just need one acceptance. Like, you can get a million rejections, but you just need one acceptance. So it's okay. It's okay. Like, one day you get one and you're sorted after that. But I would say that do not apply to places where you don't want to be at, or places which are not in your field or taking you away from what you do, especially when you have experience and when you've decided what you're specializing in. As a fresher who's completely new, I would say apply everywhere, because it's a very different thing. Right now you don't know what working is like, so you never know what you like, so apply everywhere. But with someone who has a specialization, I would completely say do not apply everywhere, unless you want to just like, I know a lot of people who want to stay in the country, like in certain countries, because of different reasons. Like, there are a lot of personal reasons for people to want to stay, so they do this as well. But if you're looking at your career, I would suggest to be as specific as possible.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing this insight and your experience. So I am quite having fun, but it's already 10:20, so we'll be little like quick and brief in answers. But Apoorva, ma'am, you wanted to share your experience of post LLM with us. So, ma'am, if you would like to share that, you are good.
Oh no, I mean, I think most of it is already covered. It's just that, um, like the other speakers, even I faced like a challenge in finding a job after LLM. There were multiple reasons to it. One was that when I graduated, it was COVID time, so it was not employees market, and there were not. It wasn't a time where employers wanted to hire a lot. That was one. And the second part to it is that in general it is difficult to get a job after LLM, especially I would be really specific to US, because that's what I know best. It's not just about COVID. The rate by which LLM graduates are consumed in the US market is low. That also has various factors and reasons for the visa issue or the time of work authorization we have. There is a preference to a green card or a more stable visa or a US citizenship visa, which is easier, which does not require the company to sponsor them. So it's very challenging for not just me, for everyone who's doing this. But again, you have to fight it out. That's the only way. So if you give up, that's the easiest. But yeah, I think and see, there are so many examples in front of us. So all my co-speakers who've really put their best foot forward and went through that slightly challenging journey. So to all the students or aspiring people who want to get an LLM, my advice would be that just hang in there. If it is meant for you, just believe that it is meant for you, but then don't stop working hard. So it's a combination of both, which makes you reach where you want to.
Thank you, ma'am. So just a couple of questions of mine, and then couple of questions we have in the chat box. We'll then and close with the session afterwards. So, ma'am, just an aspect which is like little less covered here is the finance aspect. Like mainly when like Gitanjali ma'am, Apoorva ma'am, Shreya ma'am were working somewhere. So you kind of get some independent, like, okay, now we are bearing our own expenses. But again, going back to study and getting dependent, maybe because for the expenses. So how did all of you manage your expenses? If we can start with Shreya ma'am. The
Um,
expenses part and the scholarship also. Like you can touch upon little with scholarship also. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
so with the expenses part, I feel that definitely, I mean, whatever I had earned in the 2 years definitely was minimal of the expenses that I had to bear here, because the living cost is definitely very high. And I think when you are here, you definitely try to see your way around. But in terms of your education finances and everything, so I had to take a loan. So I think maybe some people, there are like it's very different for everybody. Some people will take a loan, for some people it's pretty settled because of their finances. But for me, it was a bit tough in the starting, but I think eventually, once I took the loan and everything, and now hopefully I would be able to pay it off, apart from that, I think whatever my other expenses are, since ever I've been here, I think the only way I could do that is in the US, you can work for 20 hours when you're doing the LLM. So I took like a lot of jobs. I took research positions, and I took swim instructor positions and everything. And I think that really helped me at least to get like groceries and everything for myself. And I feel like, I mean, I can't say much about scholarship, but whatever I've known from that, I feel it does help. But eventually you still have a lot of expenses that, extra expenses that you also don't know. You want to go out, you want to have some kind of fun, you want to balance things out, you want to do your groceries, XYZ stuff. So I think that somewhere kind of, yeah, is there.
So thank you, ma'am. Like passing the dais to Gitanjali, ma'am.
Yeah, so I actually had like help from my parents, because even 3 to 4 years of work experience is not enough to cover your expenses at an LLM. Thankfully, my parents were like, they knew I would be doing an LLM, because this was something I always wanted. So they had like their savings and set money for that. So that was that. But yeah, I have a lot of friends and people who did apply for scholarships. And there are, like, of course, scholarships which are with the colleges, and you might get financial aid which are with the colleges. So that is, I think, the best way to, first thing to look for, in fact. But even apart from that, if you're like going from India, like, since we are a like a less advantaged country, you can also look on the government websites, and there are a few scholarships, not easy to get, which is what I know from most of my friends who've applied. But yeah, there are chances, and especially if you're going for specializations like IP and stuff. I know that for IP there are like some specific scholarships which are offered, especially for students who are even intending to come back to India, because a lot of people want students to study, gain the knowledge, and come back. Like, I know that there is one scholarship by Justice Pratibha Singh. I don't know if it's Justice Pratibha Singh scholarship or maybe her firm's scholarship. So there are scholarships, and I think that research would be best answered by people who did that research, or a Google search. But yeah.
And Apoorva, ma'am, you secured scholarship, so your take must be different.
Yeah, I was just avoiding this question because I'm a bad example because I got a full merit scholarship for Penn State. So I don't know how it feels to take a loan, or how it feels to be in that flight where you have like a 60 lakh loan sitting, that, oh shit, I have to get a job and I have to, I really don't know how it feels. I'm sure it is challenging. But and as far as my living expenses and my rent and groceries is concerned, I was a research assistant to a professor at Penn State, so that covered that. So basically, the money part of it, I never had to. I was very fortunate not to have to pay attention to it a lot. So um, I think I was more like, I was a very free person when it comes to at least that aspect, that I don't have, I had a little bit lesser things to worry about. And yeah, so I should speak less on this topic. Yes, let's
Ma'am, just can you elaborate on little bit of scholarship aspect, because I see a question in the chat box also regarding the fully funded scholarship.
Okay, so again, as Gitanjali mentioned, there are multiple ways to go about it. One is the college-sponsored scholarship. That is also of various types. One is the merit scholarship which you get. Then there are others which are like, need-based scholarship based on, the kind of area or country you come from. That is also one way. Then there are diversity scholarships, which I definitely applied for in other universities, which is, just tell your story, that where you come from and why and how you are different from a privileged set of society. That is there. Also, like again, like she mentioned, there are the Tata Scholarship, or Justice Pratibha has her own scholarship, and there are various other organizations in India and abroad, uh, um, uh, who offer scholarship. There's also one website which I could recommend. It's named Scholarly, where you can go and where you can type the kind of masters or undergrad program which you want to do, and it will show you the related scholarship which might be available or which might be suitable for you. So that is my recommendation. You could really use that website. I did use it, but I because I got it very soon from the university where I applied to. I did not follow up much to the other scholarship applications which I had, the independent scholarship applications which I had. But yeah, I mean, I feel that it's a very, very big comfort if that part is taken care by somehow taken care. And trust me, don't shy away from applying uh, to the diversity scholarship. I think it's really something which can be used by people like us, where people who are from different backgrounds, and yeah, we can really use something like that. And trust me, no harm applying about for the need-based scholarship as well. We might not like really need it, but I would take my chances to apply on something like that. So I think in this case, the more you spread your hands, I think you will end up with at least something. You would end up with part merit scholarship, but you would end up with, it would take at least some percentage of burden of your shoulders. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Jigyasa, would you like to add anything to this aspect?
Well, for me, it was a simple case of hi parents, support me and I'll support you later. So for me, it was again like Gitanjali, it was my parents supporting me for my LLM, because more than myself, it was their dream for me to go and do LLM, specifically from the UK. No idea why, but they wanted me to come here and they said, okay, don't worry, we will take care of that. And yeah, for me, it was just like my parents supported me, and now it's my duty to support them back. That's only how I can give it back to them. But yeah, for me, it was just my parents.
Thank you all to all. So like a follow-up question, it might sound little personal question. So like when you ask, like when you're planning to go to LLM, so there is one question, okay, you have to get married also, and parents are saving for marriage also. So does that aspect bothers you, like currently, like of the marriage aspect? Because my parents are like, when I said I want to study one more year, I'm in my final year. So they said, okay, we are saving up for marriage, not for your LLM. If you want, you can go on scholarship or something, like bear it on your own. So does that question bother you, like now, or like while pursuing LLM or something like that? Any experience of that?
Trust me, Manya, take that money which they have saved, take it for your LLM, crush it there, get a good job, you will be able to sponsor your marriage on your own.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think I mean, it really depends from parents to parents, right? Like even these days, I've seen like parents also getting really progressive to the extent where I can give an example of my parents who were like, yeah, so like, they're like, like not very keen on marriage. They're more like, focus on your academics, yeah, we'll sponsor. You want to study more? You want to like do PhD? You want to do, a doctorate, whatever, like, they are all for it. So I think it also depends on that. So I have no guilt whatsoever. I might have a guilt when I get married, because they will be like, why are you getting married and not studying more? But yeah, I mean, I do feel like, as and when like the year progressed, like you have a certain amount in mind, but as and when the year progresses and more payments are made, you realize the amount of money that is going into this college, into this program. And that's when I was like, yeah, okay, I'm definitely, like Jigyasa already said, we need to pay them back somehow. So I think that, like, with parents, again, I don't know about like how you guys' parents are, but for me, my parents are, those Indian parents who will refuse to take any money from me and hit me with a chappal if I try to pay them back. So all I can do is, like, be there and take care of them later. So yeah, and they're pretty happy for me. So I think it really depends on the kind of parents you have. And of course, like Apoorva said, take the money for LLM. Like marriage, you can do it on your own. You can do a court marriage as well. So
Yeah. So Shreya, I'm Jigyasa, if you'd like to.
I mean, it's also a fact about regretting something later on, it might be a case, of course it's very personal, but it might be a case that you go ahead with marriage and you're not able to pursue your dream of LLM later on because of things come up. So I think my approach to it would be I'd put myself forward first, build a career or build something which I want to, and I'm not sure about the marital status of the women here, but if it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. So I'm not running after it. I'm running after myself and my career, and then if somebody tags along, tags along. Yeah. So that's not something. That's not a goal that oh, let's get married. No, let's make a career, and okay, a partner would be nice. So my approach to marriage versus my career is like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
So anybody like Shreya, ma'am, Jigyasa, if would like to add on? Otherwise, we proceed.
Well, for me, it's like you should not be sorry for not having enough sources, because at the end of the day, if it's meant to be, it will happen. And you should just work towards collecting those resources and doing whatever you want to do in life, whatever stage you think you will be happy at. LLM career, even if it's like, okay, I'm happy with my undergrad, get a nice job, LLM is not something I want to do. Use that money. I think it's very subjective from person to person. And also, you should not be sorry for being privileged, if that makes sense. If you're privileged, if your parents have done it for you, then why are you sorry to people about that? And it is just how it is. Everyone has a different story, right? And it is how you want to take it and how you use those resources towards whatever makes you happy is what I believe. So for as of now, for example, I'm very young to even think about marriage. Parents start saying these things right after you turn 22, 23, that oh, you have to think about marriage and stuff. It's just your job to show them things that are way better than marriage as of now, so that even they are they are more driven towards investing into your career than your functions for 500 people who don't matter.
No, but I see, while I agree with what you're saying, you have to understand that people like you and me and the people here we come from, you believe it or not, the privileged section of India, right? When you talk about India, it's so huge and there are so many levels to what we are talking about. The biggest part of India is what Manya is still believe in what Manya is saying, that marriage is the biggest deal. So um, yes, we can, our parents might be progressive and liberal and open to the ideas of change and women empowerment and all that, but that's just a very small section of India. Most of the like a major part of India, there in that part, marriage is taken very seriously, and to convince those parents to spend that 40 lakhs for a master's degree, which might or might not be useful to you, then marriage, this could be the biggest deal for someone, right? So
Well, that is
I'm sure it's way harder for
a lot of people. I
lot
agree.
many people there
But
to
I'm
convince.
saying, yes, it's more about taking a bet on yourself. As in, if you think that okay, if I'm damn sure that if my parents invest 40 lakhs on me, if they have that kind of resource, and if I have taken a bet on myself that okay, let them invest on this, and I'll prove them in 2 to 3 years that I'm still doing the same level of marriage that they always expected me to do. Because obviously, if someone doesn't have the resources, that's a different story altogether. It's about having the resources, but then putting it into marriage or LLM. So I think that is about placing a bet on yourself and then thinking, as in, will I be able to have a good, uh, fruitful product out of whatever I'm doing, whatever decision I'm making.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Like the conversation diverted to other way. So it's already 10:30 here, more than 10:30. So let's like take a couple of questions from the chat box. So
Yeah.
one of the question is Yeah. So if one decides to pursue LLM after gaining some industry experience, do university grades matter? Just a quick yes, no, or something. Anybody can take this up. University grades does matter in all the sense for the LLM.
Do you mean the grades of LLM?
No, no, no. The undergrad grades, the
Undergrad.
CGPA.
I guess it still would, because when you're applying and when you're submitting your application, they will definitely ask for your grades, irrespective of whatever experience you have. Maybe like once your application is submitted, they might give less weightage to your score as compared to your like 3 or 4 or 5 years of experience. So, but I think you will definitely have to submit your scores.
I think one question will answer all of them mostly. Just to have a kind of a checklist of like CV building, like while applying for LLM, what should be there in the application, like maybe internships, publications, LORs in from where, like from the professors, or like when you're working from your like employers. So just a quick checklist if we can make one, two things if from each speaker, that would be amazing. I think that would be suffice and the concluding note for the session.
I think it's very personalized, and it clearly depends on where you're applying. But I would, as I said earlier, I think your focus should only be if it's like your CV for job application or your LLM application. For LLM application, and actually both, you will just have to you will have to make your own judgment in terms of what will highlight more for you and what will differentiate your work from like somebody else. So I think you will have to make your own checklist for that. I had to make my own checklist in terms of what all to put for like my LLM application. And just one thing I would say, that whenever you're preparing your CV or for your job application or LLM application, I think just have like a side document of all that you've done so far, from like probably school till like now, anything and everything, just so that you have it handy somewhere. And sometimes like you forget that, okay, I probably could have used that in like my SOP or probably in my CV for my LLM application. So just have that as your document, just like a secondary document, and have everything written and then accordingly tweak it. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody who would like to add on this?
I can try to comment on this. I think for me, I felt like in an LLM application, and especially because I did have some conversations with my program director, and what I thought, understood at least, was relevant is that, not that like I see the question that's in the chat, and person's asked about writing about 10-15 publications or all of their assistantships and everything. I don't think that's necessary. I think you write like your top three. Like, it's good to write, show a diversity, that okay, I've done this, I've done that, but I don't think you need to overcrowd your CV. So I think a big mistake that a lot of people tend to make is to have a huge CV. And in my opinion, I am not sure if this goes for, I think this goes for the US as well, but at least in Europe, like a CV has to be as crisp as possible. So like 1 to 2 pages. So, as a lawyer, since we have internships and, a lot of extracurriculars, ours tends to be a bit longer. So I would say at the max, like if you have work experience, in that case, you can, extend it to maybe 3 pages. But I think that's more than enough, because these admissions people are reviewing so many applications. They are not going to read past the second or third page. They're going to flip it, and you're going to have to highlight things in it. The things you want noticed, at least on top or highlighted. With respect to how many things to put, I think I think that's a matter of opinion, personal choice. For me, I would say I would put like my top 3 papers, for which, and by top three, I mean this would depend on where I'm applying, right? So if I'm applying for an IP LLM, I would select the papers which are focused towards that area. Maybe I would also select some papers which I've written about that jurisdiction where I'm applying, if I have. If not, then I would select my 3 best papers, which had probably the best reception from the audience. And with respect to internships, same way. So I would go into where I'm applying, choose a specialization, and write one quick line, like, not like, I know, like when we're in law school and applying for jobs, we write like interned at so and so place and 10 points about that place. So I would just write one point and keep it short. So there are ways to cover more things, but keep it short. But do not write, I don't think it's necessary to write all 15 things of every single thing you've done. It looks like a bit too much, but good to have variety. Even, in fact, I would go as far as to say to include your interest, if you're like, let's say, like a dancer or something like that, like, that, and you have like a competition or like a professional level in something which is a hobby but also professionally done. I think that is also something that they look forward to see like an all-round candidate. So that's what I can comment.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's pretty late, and we have a couple of questions regarding the SQ and bar exam. So if I could request only Jigyasa and Apoorva, because it's late for Gitanjali, she must have had to dinner, and Shreya ma'am has to go. I would request Apoorva and Jigyasa to stay for next 2 minutes, and I would like to thank Shreya ma'am and Gitanjali ma'am for your time, like it on Saturday evening and morning for Shreya ma'am. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you both. And obviously all four of you, but I would like thanking Apoorva, Jigyasa later. So thank you so much, Shreya ma'am, Gitanjali ma'am. It's like I think that all the participants can connect with you on LinkedIn, and if they have further, in case they want to seek some guidance, they can on LinkedIn. So thank you so much to both of you. And regarding, then we'll proceed with the two questions on SQE and bar exam in USM. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manya.
Bye. This is really
Proceeding with like Jigyasa ma'am, like with the last question is it a prerequisite to be a qualified solicitor in India to appear for the SQE and become a solicitor in the UK? And the similar is like, please show some light to SQE and bar exam. Jigyasa, like regarding the SQE prerequisite in UK, like you are preparing next year.
Right. So earlier UK had a route of LPC. So basically people would register for a year-long program, and it depends. If it's full time, then it was then it was 1 year. If it was part time, then it was 2 years program. But now gradually LPC has started kind of getting faded, and there are a lot of universities out there who are not even offering LPC anymore, and they've stopped that route of qualifying as a solicitor in the UK. The new way to qualify is to take an SQE exam. Now, this exam happens in 2 phases. One is your SQE1 and the other one is SQE2. SQE1 is more about your theoretical knowledge, as in how will you apply your theoretical knowledge to the practical aspects of law in the UK, wherein it's a multiple choice question examination, 180 questions in total, and it takes place within a span of 2 days. So it's basically FLK1 and FLK2. So you obviously, for example, now the next the next exam is being taken in January, for example. So there will be 2 days. In the sense, you go to the exam center on a morning, take that exam for 2.5 hours. There's a break, then another 2.5 hours. Then it's FLK1, and then the next day you go again to the center for your FLK2, which is also again divided into same 2 aspects. Now, once you clear your SQE1, there are a few grounds on which you can seek exemptions for SQE2. For example, I'm a qualified advocate in India, but there are not many jurisdictions which are recognized. In the sense, for example, if you're registered as an advocate with Delhi Bar Association, I think it's Delhi, Assam, Goa. I know it sounds weird, like Delhi, Assam, Goa. It's just out of the blue. But on the Solicitors Regulatory Authority website, you will see a few jurisdictions which qualify for the exemption of SQE2. Now there are other exemptions, meaning that you don't have to take SQE2 at all. But this will vary from person to person. in the sense the SRA, which is like Solicitor Regulation Authority in the UK, they will take every case personally, and it's very subjective, as in what is it in your CV, what is it in your academic qualifications to show that you don't really need to appear for SQE2, or let's say certain parts of SQE2 for that matter, because SQE2 is basically your ethics, your professional conduct, your oral arguments and stuff like that. For example, but obviously if someone is planning to do LLM, if someone's planning to come to UK right after their LLB now, there are still some universities or some institutions which do provide LPC as of now as well, which is a simple 1-year law course, LPC. And but the another, I would say, requirement to qualify as a solicitor through the LPC route is to have 2 years post qualifying work experience. So you have to have a training contract for that matter. Any kind of experience will not be considered. It's very important to grab a training contract from a solicitor within the UK in order to complete that process of being called a solicitor in this country. And whereas the SQE route, you only need to have a post qualifying work experience. 2 years, can be anything, can be paralegal, can be a legal assistant, just has to be in the law sector. So that's the major difference between LPC. There are 2 routes to get qualified, but LPC, I would say, is now getting out of the picture very quickly, because not many universities kind of offer LPC as of now. But SQE, obviously you have enough time to take both the exams. As in SQE1, if you're taking in January, then the SQE2 will be somewhere around in October. So you have enough time to kind of prepare for both the exams. There's enough time gap between both of them.
Thank you, ma'am, for this detailed answer. So just a brief answer from Apoorva, ma'am, regarding the bar exam in US, bar qualification. Is it a prerequisite to practice there? Like, I know it is, but like, if can hear it from you. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. What is the prerequisite for bar exam? Like a license from
Like,
India?
I would to practice in US. Like, is it like which bar exam is the prerequisite, and in which we had one? Is there any competitive exams which you can attempt while sitting in India?
Okay, when you say US, it doesn't work like other countries. It works by the state, right? So I am a California attorney. I cleared the California bar exam. So yes, I'm an attorney in the US, but my license is for California. So it works by the state. Every state has their own bar examination with a different cutoff, with a different criteria, with, that state rules. So California bar exam is one of the most difficult bar exams in the world. So any of the audience who's planning to take it, just think twice about it, because it's not easy. It's going to be like a journey. And this is the first time I got to know a little bit about the UK, the process in UK and how to become a solicitor for that. And trust me, it seems easier because I know about the California bar exam. It is also 2-day, it is 13 hours, and there are like 2 sessions of 3 hours, every day. It also has like a part which is multiple choice, and the other half of it is essay writing. So you have to write 6 essays in 5 hours, and it's crazy. And I can, like, we can do like another full session about bar exam, because I have a lot of information. But if the audience wants a little bit more information about the California bar exam in particular, I have done a lot of previously I've done many interviews, and I've given a lot of writings, and everything's on my LinkedIn. Go check it out, read it, shoot me an message, email, DM, whatever, on LinkedIn or otherwise. But as far as the prerequisites is concerned, as far as California is concerned, there is no prerequisite to have an LLM from the US. You can directly sit as an Indian attorney. They recognize the degree of an Indian attorney, an LLB, JD, what do you call it, from India. You could do that, but I wouldn't suggest someone in India to start preparing for the California bar examination and just come here and give it. It is next to impossible. So I think the most realistic way of how you want to clear the California bar examination is to come for an LLM, and especially when you are like an attorney who's been an advocate in India, who's been practicing, and you're out of the student life. So, the best way is to come here, study for an year, be back with the books for an year, do well in your LLM, and, get a job which, at least lets you survive, do a paralegalship or a law clerkship, and simultaneously, that's what I did. Simultaneously, I prepared with a full-time job for the bar examination, and preparing for a bar examination is a full-time job. So, many, many months, it was like 2 full-time jobs for me. I rushed back from the office and I study. So it requires a lot of months and a lot of dedication, and, a lot of motivation, a self-motivation to reach the other side of it. But yeah, I mean, there's not much paperwork, or there's not some big things which you have to do to be able to give the exam. No, that process is easy. The exam itself is difficult. So everything else is smooth if you are ready to become an attorney. And it's half of it is an attitude that, I am going to become that, and the other half of it is hard work. So if there is a combination of these two things, I've always said this in all my previous interviews, and I'm going to say it again. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I feel that I don't believe I'm a genius, but it's just about hard work.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really enjoyed today's session, and if it would have not been time constrained, it would have gone like whole night. We had so many questions and things. I had so many questions planned myself. So thank you so much for this wonderful session today, and it was pleasure meeting you all four. And like I could feel that your struggles, and more power to you. It was amazing. Jigyasa, all the best, and Apoorva, for all your endeavors, and congratulations on qualifying California exam. I'm already scared now after listening to that tedious exam
Whenever
process.
somebody talks to me about California, trust me, I'm not the one who's like, you'll be able to do it. It's fine. No, it is difficult, and it will take up a lot of months of your life, and you will have to hibernate yourself. That is the way to do it. So if one is ready for it, you want to go that route, only then. I've always said, and again, in my previous interviews, I've always said that, you can become an attorney in California when this is the only thing you want in life. This is what you want, and you want nothing else, and you can give up everything for this. That's when you become an attorney for this. So it is an attitude. That's the biggest thing. And then it's prep, and then it's, support and buying books and money, and everything else is behind. But one is that, I'm here for this. I will be, and I will write Esquire after my name. So once you get that in your head, that's when you become an attorney.
Thank you, ma'am. It kind of sounds like UPSC, to be honest.
Oh yeah, trust me, I'm like really not boasting about it, but if you just Google top 10 most difficult exams in the world, not law, just Google it generally. In the top 10 most difficult exam of the world, you will find California bar examination. So from India, there are a couple of them. One is IIT, one is UPSC, and then there is California bar examination, and of course 6 more. These are the top 10 most difficult exams of the world, and I got to know this after I cleared it, and of course I was happy about it. But when I read this, I was more happy about it. Oh, I did something which is like, oh, people are Googling about it. So it's good. It feels I feel happy about it. But oh, I know how I've done it. The room. This was my study table, and this is the room where I did it. And I, trust me, when I think about moving from this house, I'm like, no, this is where I cleared the bar. I want to extend my lease. I want to stay here. This is very special to me. So it's a journey. It is difficult, but it is possible.
Thank you, ma'am. And we couldn't have had better speakers for this session to share their experiences from all different jurisdictions of the world. So it was amazing, and hope to have more sessions with you in future. Thank you so much from behalf of whole team of IPPS and the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All the best,
Nice.
Manya, for you want
Yeah.
to go ahead. And if you need any advice about LLM and you want to pursue
Surely
whatever
I
you
will
want,
connect with you. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you, Jigyasa. It was,
Nice to meet you
and
as
yeah, and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All the best, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
well.
Have a great day. Bye.